Hi, in this video I want to discuss commercial products I use in my practice to support principles of neuroscience. And as a disclaimer, I am on the scientific advisory board for Apex Energetics, which will be the products I'll be focusing on. And the products that I'll be mentioning are the ones that I helped formulate for Apex Energetics, so obviously I like them. Now, in the course, for the longevity course, we went through 4 different categories of nutraceuticals. Those nutraceuticals that impact longevity pathways, those that impact hallmarks of aging, and then we talked about pleiotropic nutraceuticals, which will hit many different aspects of these physiological pathways altogether, and then nutraceutical support resiliency. So we know that there's different nutraceuticals that have been shown to really impact some of these gene pathways. Most of these have been done in animal organism studies because of measuring lifespan. And we look at longevity genes, whether it's a sirtuin pathway, the mTOR pathway, or AMPK pathway, and so on. We can see these different nutraceuticals that have been known to have some effect on changing the expression of them. Now, an important concept we talked about with this pleiotropy concept, which refers to disorders where multiple seemingly unrelated organ systems are affected, meaning when you look at nutraceuticals and their pleiotropic effect, you're trying to find a nutraceutical that has impact in many systems that impact physiological pathways for aging and wellness and resiliency. So in this paper that was published, they highlighted the pleiotropic effects of, for example, resveratrol, which has a tremendous amount of research behind it for multiple pathways. And then they went through, and if you take the concepts of resveratrol and the studies have been published, you can see resveratrol really impacts almost every one of these gene expression pathways. So it's become a very popular area of research in nutraceuticals that impact these longevity genes. And then right behind that is curcumin. And curcumin has also been shown to impact many of these pathways of wellness and longevity and aging, whether it's senescence, autophagy, or apoptosis. And if we take a look at all the different nutraceuticals that are highlighted here, curcumin impacts, you can see many, if not most, all of the longevity genes have been shown to be positively impacted by curcumin, except the mTOR pathway, and I just think it's because I haven't studied it. And then if you look at berberine is really a powerful compound for many of the AMPK pathways, and really has impacts on autophagy and senescence and so forth. So you can see berberine is also a very impactful nutraceutical. So those are very important. And then also green tea. If you take a look at green tea, you can see green tea is found in many of these pathways. So one of the things that I put together in the course was this slide, which goes into these supplements, these pleiotropic supplements, meaning that these nutraceuticals that really impact multiple pathways that seem to have the greatest amount of support behind them. So resveratrol, curcuminoids, berberine, green tea extract. I put 500 to 3,000 milligrams a day for the first 2 resveratrol curcuminoids, but I tend to like to go in the higher area. Berberine 200 to 500 milligrams per day. Berberine you got to be careful with people that are hypoglycemic because it has some insulin signaling enhancement efficiency. So it's very good for people that have some insulin resistance patterns, but you want to be careful with the dose. For those that have insulin resistance, I'll typically use somewhere between 200 to 400 milligrams per meal, but this is just a general daily kind of support dosage. Green tea extract, 500 to 3,000 milligrams a day. And even though we didn't really talk about it in this course, but there's so much research on EPA and DHEA when it comes to cardiovascular disease, and cardiovascular disease being the number one disease that impacts longevity. In the cardiovascular course that I put together for the Crosby Institute, there are numerous meta-analyses that are conducted with clinical trials, human clinical trials on EPA and DHEA. And it's very, very clear that there is a lot of evidence behind daily intake of fish oils. So I put it in here in the longevity course just because the number one cause of death worldwide is cardiovascular disease. And it definitely hits multiple pathways of healthy aging. And then coffee or tea, 2 cups per day. We talked about some research with flavonoids in coffee or tea that can have some therapeutic benefits. So for me, when I interpret these interventions for my own practice, I use Resveratrol Active. And Resveratrol Active is basically emulsifies micronized trans resveratrol. You definitely want trans resveratrol and micronized resveratrol and micronized glutathione and micronized curcumin. You'll see I'll like to use those. Those have been found to have better rates of absorption. And and when you look at resveratrol, the trans form of resveratrol seems to have the best effects. So I'll use this product, and it's about 250 milligrams for a teaspoon. So you can go 2 teaspoons 3 times a day, or 2 teaspoons once a day, or whatever the goals are. The more inflammation a person has, obviously the higher amounts you want to use. And then for some people that don't like the liquid version, there is a capsule version of the product as well. And each capsule is like a teaspoon. It's 250 milligrams as well. So this is the Resveratrol SE Active. So either one. I personally, for myself, I personally like to just take capsules. My wife loves to take the liquid one. But she feels like she has a better immediate effect with the oil version of it. She does with the teaspoon. I personally like the capsule version. Now, same thing with turmeric, Tumero Active. They have an emulsified micronized curcuminoids as Tumero Active, and they have a capsule version of it called Tumero SE. And if you look here, it's 420 milligrams, but not all turmeric or curcuminoid products are equal. What you're really looking for is when you see a dose is the percentage of curcuminoids. That's really where you get your physiological effects. So this is emulsified micronized curcuminoids, and that's what you want. And some studies have shown 4 to 6% times the normal absorption of just oral curcuminoids in an emulsified form. So my emulsified micronized 95% curcuminoids is as good as it comes. This is like the Rolls Royce of turmeric. So either capsule form or an oil form. And then glycoberine is just berberine. So there's a product Apex has called Glycoberine Active, which is about 500 milligrams of berberine. And that's if you just want berberine. I personally like this one, which is berberine plus other AMPK supporting nutraceuticals. So burdock, alpha-lipoic acid, rose hips, those all may have beneficial effects on these AMPK pathways. So I prefer this one personally. I actually like this one more than the other ones. There's also a glycoberine 400 milligram soft gel. Some people prefer just taking berberine as soft gel versus a capsule form. So any of those are available if you're using the Apex line. I personally like this one because I also want the other AMPK stimulators. And then the last part of that pleiotropic support was the fish oils. Apex has a phenomenal one called omega-3, which is again micronized, emulsified omega-3 and 6, but this also has all the cofactors. So if you look at the essential fatty acids for fish oils eventually have to become prostaglandins to have their best clinical effect. And these prostaglandins really require cofactors for these desaturase and elongase enzymes. So all the cofactors that are used to support these elongase and desaturase pathways are also in this product itself. And there's also a capsule version of that product. So again, if you like the oils, if you like the capsules, whichever is preferred. And then the last part of this would be the XFLM. So the XFLM is important to us because it has that high amount of green tea extract. And this is 95% polyphenols. That's really what you want. And there's also grapeseed extract, which also has very similar profound impacts with 95% paranthocyanidins, which are the active form of grapeseed, some pine bark, a little bit of resveratrol, but really these green tea and grapeseed polyphenols at a 95% concentration are ideal. And that's one of the things you have to realize when you use curcumin or green tea, the concentration of polyphenols makes all the difference in the world. The higher quality ones will have, as high as saturation as you can get, which is about 95%. So when you look at these pleiotropic supplements here, for resveratrol, I use the Resveratrol Active. For curcuminoids, I use the Tumero Active. For the berberine, I prefer the Glycoberine MX. And then for the green tea extract, I like to use the XFLM product, which also has some pine bark extract in there as well. And that combination is something I personally do take daily. And the EPA, DHA, the omega-3 from Apex is phenomenal with all the cofactors in there as well, in an emulsified version. So this is a really good way just to support yourself from an antioxidant perspective. Everyone's going to value whether taking antioxidants on a regular basis is worth it for them. There's obviously cost involved, and the benefit may not be immediately clear. Now, some people notice an immediate well-being effect, anti-inflammatory effect when they take a protocol like this, and some don't. The more inflamed you are, the more likely you're able to feel the effects. And for people that don't have a lot of inflammation, they don't really notice the big difference when they take them. It's just done because they want to support themselves with these antioxidants, polyphenols, as a way to improve their general health from a preventive point of view. Okay. So those are the pleiotropic list of supplements that I use. Then we get into nutraceuticals specific to the hallmarks of aging, and there's a lot of overlap here between some of those. And when you look at the nutraceuticals for the hallmarks of aging, the one that's really, really important for genomic instability, telomere attrition, epigenetic alterations, mitochondrial dysfunction, things that damage proteins, is really glutathione. So glutathione is really one of the most important antioxidants. You can see it's listed as appears as a nutraceutical. But this is my go-to antioxidant. So trisomal glutathione is a liposomal form of glutathione, which allows it to be absorbed better. And in addition to that, it's also the S-acetylglutathione form plus the actual glutathione and acetylcysteine and phosphatidylcholine. So these things all work together to optimize glutathione effects in the tissues. Now, I know for myself, if I take a serving of this, I immediately notice it. And I think most people that first try it notice the same thing. They just feel there's a sense of just well-being as soon as you take it, like you had some kind of energy drink, but there's no stimulants in there. So trisomal glutathione is something to also consider as a daily nutraceutical. It's probably, if you're going to use any antioxidant, I think this would be one of the top ones. Okay. Then we got into aspects of nutritional protocols or nutraceuticals for resiliency. And you talk about immune resiliency, there's a whole list of things, but I broke it down into like micronutrients, which are vitamin C, A, D, and zinc, and microbiome immune supports, which are things like short-chain fatty acids and fibers, and then the specific nutraceuticals for whether you want to have natural compounds that have been found to have some anti-mold properties, or natural compounds that have some natural antibacterial or natural antiparasitic activities, or natural antiviral activities. So the key supplements as far as micronutrients go first, this is a product called AD Pro. And vitamin A is really, really important. This has 8,000 IUs of vitamin A per soft gel and 3,000 IUs of vitamin D. And I think vitamin A doesn't get enough attention. But vitamin A is especially critical for the lung barrier and the gut barrier, and the dendritic cells in both the gut and lung barrier or have receptors for retinoic acid and vitamin D. So I think it's just a good way to get these two very powerful immune modulating fat-soluble supplements in. And this is one of the things I use when people have like a weaker immune system or a lung barrier or a gut barrier that I'm trying to help support their healing and repair. C-liquosome is a phenomenal proprietary liposomal vitamin C. Again, liposomal allows for greater absorption, and this is 1,000 milligrams per serving. So I think this is one of the top vitamin C products out there because of the liposomal delivery method of it. So AD and C right here, those are really a good way to support the immune system from a micronutrient point of view. The other key thing that's really important is just the microbiome, and I think the most important biomicrobiome support will be using short-chain fatty acids. So this product called Enterovite has butyric acid, propionate, and acetate, all three short-chain fatty acids, and some vitamin E as well. And this is one of the things I use all the time. I think I use this more than any other product in my practice. And it has such diverse effects. It has anti-inflammatory effects, it has immune modulating effects, it helps support microbiome diversity. So short-chain fatty acids have been shown to have very powerful modulating effects, and I think it's the most underutilized nutraceutical in the field of functional medicine and nutrition. Then we get into situations where we may want to provide some natural or nutraceuticals with some different properties. So caprylic acid, oregano, olive leaf. These are things that are typically used to support mold, yeast overgrowths, or any kind of mold organisms. The theory being caprylic acid, oregano, olive leaf extract can break down their membranes. I really like this product. It's called Molitox. I also use this whenever I see on the lab test like candida overgrowth in a GI panel or yeast overgrowths. I find this works very well for them as well. For viral responses, the most important thing is to raise natural killer cells. Raising natural killer cells have a very direct impact on suppressing viral replication, viral activity. So this X-Vitamin product has A, C, and zinc in there, but most importantly has some really potent astragalus in there, astragalus, and even echinacea, which actually has numerous trials to show it's very effective, and glycyrrhiza, and some glandules like thymus, spleen, and parotid, and maitake mushroom, and lemon balm, and pomegranate. These are all things that help support NK cell activity. So when I'm trying to provide nutraceutical support to optimize someone's immune system, if they're dealing with a virus, I'll use this X-Vitamin. And then GI Synergy is, I think, one of the best products out there when it comes to just overall support for trying to just deal with organisms, whether it's yeast or bacteria or parasite, because it's really a packet, and the packet contains 3 different products: peristanol, yeastanol, and HPLR. And if you look at it, 2,200 milligrams of these different types of compounds like wormwood, black walnut, caprylic acid, berberry, olive extract. And if you open the packet, you immediately notice that strong scent. And that strong scent just is an eye-opener of how powerful these are. This definitely has to be eaten with food, but I find this to be very, very effective. I use it all the time when I have dysbiosis patterns, or if I want to give some natural interventions for any kind of abnormal yeast or bacterial overgrowths, or even parasites in a GI panel. And I find it to be also very effective just for common cold or just any kind of microbial issue. This is not a substitute for antibiotics or conventional medicine, but these are just nutraceuticals that have some very powerful antimicrobial properties. So then we talked about improving immune resiliency and improving microbiome resiliency. And there's some overlap with immune resiliency, like the short chain fatty acids that support the microbiome also support the immune system. And with any kind of microbiome intestinal resiliency, we want to support the tight junctions. Fiber can also be used. Fiber can help the fiber can help support microbiome diversity and act as a bulking agent and modulate insulin control, and fiber does convert into some short chain fatty acids itself. And then a probiotic. So once again, enterovite being the short chain fatty acid nutraceutical. And then I also, if I am dealing with nutraceutical strategies to support leaky gut, I use a product with Apex called Repairvite. And there's different versions of Repairvite. The Repairvite version by itself, without any other names like GT Plus or Repairvite SC, but just basic Repairvite. This was the original formulation, and it contains L-glutamine and DGL and aloe vera, all of which are natural substances that help healing of the intestinal lining. But it also has brush border enzymes. Brush border enzymes are enzymes that are on the very top of the intestinal system, so-called the brush border, and they help digest food and break down sugars and so forth. So those are also in there. Marshmallow extract, slippery elm, GABA, rosinol, MSM, chamomile, and calendula extract all have also some intestinal healing properties which can be useful. So this is like a really good way to support people that have intestinal permeability. There's a different version of this with higher amounts of glutamine. The glutamine version of this is 2,700 milligrams. This is like some practitioners want a much higher amounts of glutamine, so this is really focused on just a higher glutamine contact with just aloe vera gel and ginger. and it doesn't have the marshmallow extract. The other compound is just higher in glutamine than this one. And there are some people that have like SIBO and extreme sensitivity to any kind of starches and sugars, and this product was formulated for them. It's just high amounts of L-glutamine, zinc carnosine, and the brush border enzymes. And I tend to use this more than any other one, just because I have so many people that have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and they may not tolerate some of the starches and sugars and some of these products that heal intestinal permeability. So the original Repairvite has the greatest impact on supporting all these different mechanisms of intestinal repair. However, things like marshmallow and slippery elm may be a little too hard on the system for those that have SIBO. So for SIBO, there's this Repairvite SE. And if you're working with people that have autoimmunity, they're extremely sensitive to food proteins, this would be the one to go with. And then as far as probiotics go, support the microbiome and resiliency, this is a product called Stringthia. And each capsule has 30 billion probiotic compounds. And these strains of Saccharomyces and DDS1 lactobacillus and Bacillus coagulans and lactans are specifically picked because these are the nutraceuticals that have been shown to tolerate the acidic pH of the stomach. A lot of probiotics, as soon as they get digested to go to the stomach, the acidity of the stomach just neutralizes them, and they have no real effect by the time they get to the colon. And these probiotics also do not need to be refrigerated because of their properties. So they don't need to be refrigerated, and they can withstand the pH of the stomach. So this is one that I really like to use with my patient population. Okay. Then we get into nutraceuticals that impact stress resiliency, adaptogens, phosphatidylserine, for the HPA axis support, natural compounds support GABA pathways, and then minerals for stress are important. And as far as adaptogens go, I really love this product, Adaptocrine. Adaptocrine has a mixture of all the different adaptogens, and when you mix adaptogens together, you get a synergistic effect. And the Adaptocrine product, I don't know how long it's been around, maybe 15 plus something years. It's always been one of Apex's top seller. People who take it immediately notice feeling better when they take it. But there's a lot of good research on stress resiliency and adaptogens. We went over many of those studies in the Cross Institute Mood Disorders course. I also like to use this cream product called Adrenal Calm, and this is a phosphatidylserine cream with a bunch of different homeopathics that are there to really support dampening the stress response. And then to activate the GABA pathway, I really like this product called Neurocero. And Neurocero is a liquid form of valerian extract, passion flower extract, and chamomile extract. And it also has L-theanine, magnesium, and 5-HTP. Now, chamomile, passion flower, valerian root, and L-theanine are all natural substances that have been found to be natural GABA agonists. So they bind to the GABA receptor. And then magnesium taurate, also very impactful there. Lithium orotate has also been shown to have some natural GABA agonist properties. And in a liquid form, it's a completely different animal than if this was a capsule. I don't know if they could ever make a powdered version of this that would have the same effect. So this is by far, I think, one of the best GABA supporting products I've ever used. And when the final version of this was made with the right percentage of these compounds in a liquid form, I'm so blown away by it. This is one of my new favorite products, and I use it quite often in my practice now. Nutraceuticals support cognitive resiliency, and obviously when you look at the cognitive resiliency, you're trying to look at things that support brain health and brain function. EP and DHA are really important. Methylation is important. Compounds that impact blood flow to the brain are important. For cognition and recall, acetylcholine is very important. Compounds that have neuroprotective properties can be very important. And then, of course, things that dampen neuroinflammation are really important. Now, you see resveratrol, curcumin, glutathione, and green tea extract. These are things that we use for the pleiotropic effects. And they also have very powerful effects on protecting the brain. Now, when it comes to the brain, we know that fish oils are really important. But when you're looking at cognitive function, DHA is really the key factor of fish oils that has the best effect on cell membranes and cognition and recall. So fish oils have EPA and DHA. and EPA is really good for stomach inflammation, but DHA is really the key player when it comes to supporting neurotransmission and cell membrane function of the brain. So Apex has a DHA with phosphatidylcholine, and phosphatidylcholine being also an essential fat molecule that's really supportive of cell membranes and brain function itself. So this is in a liquid form, and it's also in a capsule form, but having a high DHA product can be very important when you support the brain. You'll have people that don't respond to fish oils for cognitive function. As soon as they start taking high amounts of DHA, they will have some immediate effects with cognition. So this has 1,200 milligrams of just DHA, and without the EPA. Most of the fish oils you see are high in EPA, not as DHA, not as much as DHA, but this is a very high DHA product. Now, another really important product for supporting methylation pathways, cognition pathways, that I like to use is a product called methyl SP. And when you look at the conversion of homocysteine down to cysteine, that methyl transfer, that one carbon group transfer, there's really important cofactors that are involved with that. So this has all the different cofactors for those pathways, and I think one of the most important compounds that are needed for supporting methylation is trimethylglycine and MSM and choline, and those are all in there as well. So this is a fantastic product. This is what I use all the time. It's my go-to when I see high homocysteine levels and I'm trying to bring those levels down. Then we have nutraceuticals that support blood flow to the brain. Neuro 2 has butcher's broom, ginkgo biloba, feverfew, and vinpocetine. And vinpocetine is a very powerful endothelial nitric oxide synthase activator, and so is ginkgo. So when you look at ginkgo, they're not all the same. You really want to look at that glycoside ratios. This is why you also see Apex clearly tell you what the ratios of different compounds are, because it's letting you know it's like this is the highest quality extract you can get for the purpose that's involved here. So I use this all the time for people that have cold hands, cold feet, their brain function may be impacted with poor circulation. I'll use that protocol. And then acetyl-CH active has compounds that support the acetylcholine pathway. Huperzine A is a natural acetylcholine esterase inhibitor, which means it allows acetylcholine to hang out in the synaptic cleft much longer. Acetylcarnitine has been shown to be an agonist of the acetylcholine receptor. And alpha-GPC is also very important in activating acetylcholine mechanisms as well. Pantothenic acid is the main cofactor to convert acetyl groups into acetylcholine. So this is a great product, especially when you have people that have impaired memory and recall. This would be the go-to for that. The Neuroflam is a product that has a lot of different flavonoids that have been shown in different studies to dampen microglial cells. So it's curcuminoids and the rutin and the green tea and the bacillium, the apigenin, the luteolin, a little bit of resveratrol in there. But it's just a broad spectrum compound to dampen glial activity. So if you're trying to support dampening neuroinflammation from a nutraceutical perspective. Okay. And then for those that have a need for supporting toxicological resiliency or their detox pathway or their liver phase 1, phase 2 pathways, what are known as biotransformation pathways, Apex has different products along the Clearvite product name. The one I prefer is this one here, so that's the only one I want to talk about. It's the GL version. The GL version is just grainless. Many detox drinks are loaded with rice protein and other different types of proteins, and sometimes when you're working with people that have extreme sensitivities to different foods or have SIBO or autoimmunity, it's better just not to have any type of dietary protein in there, whether it's soy protein or rice protein or whey protein or pea protein. It's just no proteins at all. So this one is loaded with lots of sulfur amino acids, things that are important for sulfation. Basically, look at sulfation, methylation, acetylation, glucuronidation. Certain cofactors are involved with that, so those are all there. And then you definitely want to support some microbiome variables that can impact biotransformation pathways. So those are also in that proprietary blend. It's a phenomenal product, and it can definitely be supported with people that have biotransformation pathways. Now, if this is used in combination with this product called Hepatosynergy is basically a packet of 4 different capsules or 4 different products, which is Metacrin DX, Biolamin, Methyl SP, and Glutathione Recycler. And, when you look at these different biotransformation drinks and liver detoxification drinks that many manufacturers make, there's certain ingredients you can't put in there because they taste horrible. And there's no way you could put that in a powder. But they really have very powerful impact on the liver and these biotransformation pathways. So we have that in a capsule. So one packet has 4 capsules. I use all the time in my practice. If I use both these together, if I'm really trying to deal with someone who's got some kind of toxic load or being exposed to different compounds that need to be biotransformed, whether it's just that they have high amounts of hormones or whether they're being exposed to environmental pollutants, I think the combination of having them take a packet once or twice a day with 1 or 2 servings of the Clearvite really work very, very well. And then we get into nutraceuticals for dietary resiliency. So dietary resiliency is can the person digest proteins? Can they digest starches? Can they digest fats? Do they have any gallbladder sludge? Does their gastrointestinal immune tolerance work well? Is it overactive? And then is there any intestinal permeability? Now, when you look at the first pathways here, digesting proteins, digesting starch, and digesting fats, this is the product I like to use. It's called Enzyme Mix Pro. It has really high amounts of hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid is really important because it really triggers the rest of the enzymatic pathway. So hydrochloric acid activates the pancreas to then release pancreatic enzymes. The gallbladder contract when the acidity gets high enough to help release bile. And then you want different types of proteases and different amylases to really digest different types of fats and sugars. So you see sucrases, maltases, phytases, and bromelain. And the combination of all these different enzymes just make it more efficient in dealing with breaking down dietary protein, starches, or fats. So this is the digestive enzyme I go to in my practice. For people that have more severe issues with their gallbladder, where they have burping whenever they take fish oils, or they have a hard time digesting fats, I'll also add in Biolamin. And Biolamin contains things like dandelion root and milk thistle and phospholipids and ginger and taurine. And these are nutraceuticals that have some properties that can thin out bile. So if you can thin out the bile, you can get rid of some of that sludge, and people's digestion can improve dramatically with it. So whenever I have symptoms of severe bloating and intolerance to fats, and they can't digest fats very well, I'll have a person take this, probably 1 to 3 capsules per meal, and they may do it in combination with their enzymes at 1 or 3 capsules per meal to really improve their maldigestion and the ability to digest food proteins. Again, you'll see short-chain fatty acids and Terravite. You can see it pops up all over the place for all these different resiliency pathways. And then to support leaky gut, I like, again, the Repairvite SC. I really like this version of the Repairvite when it comes to dealing with patients that have a lot of food sensitivities and SIBO, or just a really overactive immune system. And then nutraceuticals for inflammation, flavonoids to dampen inflammation. There you go. You see the same list of the pleiotropic compounds: resveratrol, curcumin, grapeseed, green tea, grapeseed extract, green tea extract, quercetin, and then fish oils to modulate prostaglandins, and antioxidants to quench free radicals, and then once again short-chain fatty acids and vitamin D. So again, the resveratrol in a capsule, in a liquid form or capsule form, Turmero Active or Turmero SE in a capsule form, emulsified EPA DHA, either in an oil form or in a capsule form, omega-3. And then for the glutathione pathway, for sure, this is definitely, I think, the best way to support glutathione. Liposomal N-acetylglutathione with L-glutathione and N-acetylcysteine, and very powerful antioxidant, again, short-chain fatty acids. Okay, the nutraceuticals support physical resiliency. For people who work out and exercise, obviously, same anti-inflammatory compounds are very important. But nutraceuticals to really support nitric oxide pathways can be really important when it comes to people that aren't recovering from workouts. And I like to have patients use this product here called Nitric Balance. And Nitric Balance it's an emulsified liquid version of vinpocetine, alpha-GPC, xenothyl-nicotinate, and huperzine, and these compounds all work together to really amplify the acetylcholinetric oxide pathway based on their nutraceutical properties that we know about. And I like to have patients take like 2 to 4 teaspoons before a workout, and sometimes even after a workout. Most people will notice a huge difference before their workout when they take it. It's immediate, especially when you get the right dose. Maybe it's 2 teaspoons, maybe it's 4 teaspoons, but it's a phenomenal product. And then with a lot of people that have exercise resiliency, get muscle cramps, and their dehydration, I like to use this product called Electro pH Complex, and it really is a good form of minerals that support alkalinization, but basically good sources of nutrients. They're there to help support overall pH, and it contains molybdenum and potassium, and specifically potassium bicarbonate and boron and magnesium and calcium and zinc. So I use this all the time with people that have muscle cramps and muscle tightness and poor muscle recovery. Now for blood sugar resiliency issues, we would definitely want to use compounds that improve insulin signaling. We want to use nutraceuticals that limit glucose spikes like fiber sources, and then things like branched-chain amino acids to help stabilize blood sugar levels in between meals. So Apex has a really good drink, powdered product that is very useful for people in between meals when they have a hard time stabilizing their blood sugar levels or really just can't get to a snack. I know a lot of practitioners that have this in their office, and when they're like way behind and can't get to lunch or even have to skip lunch, this is something that really helps stabilize their blood sugar levels in a busy practice setting. But it could be used, in any setting where someone needs some additional support between meals to keep their blood sugar levels stable. And the things that really work well here are phytosterols, like beta-sterol, camptosterol, phytosterols, inulin, inositol, and branched-chain amino acids. These all help stabilize blood sugar levels with choline, and there's some pea protein in there as well. So it can't be used with people that have pea protein sensitivity or lectin sensitivity, but it's a really good way to provide those branched-chain amino acids like valine and L-leucine, and it really has some good sources of fiber like inulin and guar gum and cinnamon extract and other compounds that help support that insulin signaling pathway. So good amounts of fiber, good amounts of plant sterols, good amounts of branched-chain amino acids. These are all the key things you want to help stabilize someone's blood sugar levels in between meals from a nutraceutical perspective. And then if they have insulin resistance patterns where their glucose levels or fasting glucose levels are high, or clinically they fatigue after they eat, I prefer to use this product here called glycine. Glycine has many of the nutraceuticals that have been found to improve insulin receptor signaling. I have a person start with 1 or 2 capsules and see how they feel. Have them increase the dosage until they feel that they're not getting tired from meals. Then for those that are more hypoglycemic, where they get shaky, lightheaded between meals and have adrenal exhaustion, and they really just can't keep their blood sugar stable, I like to use this product called ProGlycoSP. It's really designed for supporting the adrenal glands themselves and providing the nutrients and minerals and cofactors that people that tend to have hypoglycemia have. Now, sometimes I'll use both. I'll have a person take glycine and ProGlycoSP with their meals. Ones that like more of this is the glycine is more of an insulin signaling compound support. The ProGlycoSP is more of an adrenal blood sugar support. Or if it's predominantly insulin resistance I'm dealing with, I'll use glycine. And if it's predominantly just hypoglycemia and shakiness, lightheadedness, and irritability between meals, I'll use the ProGlycoSP. And then finally, we have considerations for using nutraceuticals when people have sleep resiliency issues. And obviously, you want to activate the GABA agonists. The GABA pathways are the pathways that are used to turn down the reticular activating system so we can fall asleep. And then magnesium and potassium are there. So this Nutritional product that we mentioned earlier that has a liquid version of valerian extract and passion flower and chamomile and 5-HTP and lithium and L-theanine is phenomenal. So this is a great way to really support someone's GABA agonist pathways from a nutraceutical perspective. And people can experiment with the dose. Some will need 2 teaspoons, some will need 4 teaspoons to have the effect, but some people need half a teaspoon. But there's some trial and error experimentation to find the right dose that works for someone. And another issue with sleep resiliency is people that have overactive bladders. So sometimes men or women, especially when they get older, they have to go to the bathroom multiple times throughout the night. There's ongoing nocturnal, need to urinate all throughout the night, and sometimes 2 or 3 times a night. And, plant sterols and these compounds have some ability to kind of dampen that overactive bladder tone. This is something to definitely consider with people that may have some of those symptoms from nutraceuticals that may support that pathway. So those are the main nutraceuticals that I use in my practice to incorporate the principles we talked about in the longevity course, things that support the principles of neuroscience. And I hope you found this information useful. Thank you.